three sons were situated in the renounced order of life. From the beginning of their lives, all three of them completely controlled the activities of their senses and thus became great saints. So they received training from the beginning of their lives, and they were very detached from the beginning of their lives, and they became great saints. They concentrated their minds always upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the resting place of the totality of living entities. Means everything depends on the Supreme Lord. Everybody depends on the Supreme Lord. Nothing can happen without the sanction of the Supreme Lord. And Krishna is the everything comes from Krishna and everything goes back into Krishna. As Mahavishnu, he breathes in and breathes out. And everybody is dependent on Krishna, who is the resting place of the totality of living entities. So we have to acknowledge that we are depending on Krishna. Without Krishna's protection and support and maintenance, the jiva's very existence depends on Krishna, and who is therefore celebrated as Vasudev. So to acknowledge independence is intelligence. To rebel against Krishna and foolishly declare independence is the reason why we come to material world. So, so he is celebrated as Vasudev, the resting place and of everything. Lord Vasudev is the only shelter of those who are actually afraid of material existence. So we should be very afraid of material existence because it is a lot of suffering here and a lot of pain. Like right now, so many people are evacuating in Tampa. The roads are full of cars because this hurricane Milton is coming. And just they had one hurricane, now another hurricane is coming. So like that, there are so many miseries. And by constantly thinking of his lotus feet, these three sons of Maharaj Priyavrata became advanced in pure devotional service. So to remember Krishna, the more we remember Krishna, the more we become purified in heart. But to remember Krishna requires strong sense of love. So we remember the object of love. So all this chanting, hearing is all meant to awaken our dormant love for Krishna so that we can always remember Krishna. And act in his service. By the prowess of their devotional service, they could directly perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna reveals when one does devotional service, who is situated in everyone's heart as the super soul, and realize that there was qualitatively no difference between themselves and him. Okay, so let's see what Prabhupada says here. So, what interferes with our remembering of Krishna is our mind. The mind has so many distractions and temptations and desires, and so the soul in its pure state is naturally attracted to Krishna. So sometimes Prabhupada said, you chant Hare Krishna and forget the mind because you are a spirit soul. So we should, the soul also has a spiritual mind, and we should forget this mind, the material mind. We have to ignore the mind when we chant Hare Krishna so that we can hear Krishna's holy name very nicely and remember Krishna like that. So the mind is causing some obstacle, and the mind is thinking, making us identify with this material world, with this body as myself, and this material world is my home, and gives me so many different designations. I am this, I am that, I am father of such and such, I am mother of such and such, I am the child of such and such, I belong to this community. So that is all this mind is created, this false sense of identity. So So when we chant Hare Krishna, we have to ignore the mind. Means ignore all these identities and be situated in our pure spiritual. That's what we say. We should be taking sannyas when we chant Hare Krishna. Means we should identify ourselves as the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. So, so at least for 2 hours, we should tell the mind to give us a break. The mind is constantly chattering and saying so many things. So the mind is our enemy. Also, we should remember. So that is why whenever it doesn't allow us to think of Krishna, or whenever it allows us not to chant Hare Krishna, then it's our enemy. So in this way we can say, no, no, you are my enemy. I cannot listen to you. So in this way we can put the mind on the side. Mind is my enemy. Actually, it is the mind which is the root cause of transmigration from one body to the next. So, we have to sometimes disown the mind, right? At least when we are chanting Hare Krishna, and then other times also not allow the mind to come between us and Krishna. Like Shyam Sundar Prabhu, right? He was carving Jagannath and he was smoking cigarette also. And Prabhupada one time he noticed a pack of cigarettes and he said, don't allow this cigarette to come between you and Krishna. So we should not allow our mind to come between us and Krishna. Because I am the spirit soul. I am spirit soul and I have eternal relationship with Krishna. So I should not let my mind block that relationship. The Paramahamsa stage is the topmost position. So we have to practice. It's a practice to disidentify ourselves from the mind. And actually, the soul has a spiritual mind. So we have to think about our real identity as the soul. The Paramahamsa stage is the topmost position in the renounced life. So we have Kutichak, Bahudak, Parivrajak, and Paramahamsa. So Paramahamsa is the topmost. Even in the renounced life, there are different stages. In the sannyas, the renounced order, there are 4 stages: Kutichak, Bahudak, Parivrajak, and Paramahamsa. According to the Vedic system, when one accepts the renounced order, he stays outside his village in a cottage. And his necessities, especially his food, are supplied from home. So that's how he is becoming more and more detached. So he first goes a little bit away from his village and he stays outside the village in a cottage. Then he gets his supply from home. This is called Kutichak stage. When a sannyasi advances further, he no longer accepts anything from home. Instead, he collects his necessities, especially his food, from many places. So he doesn't depend on his home. He goes to many homes. So he's now trying to get out of the consciousness that I belong to this family. This family is going to support me. He's going to expand his consciousness. This system is called Madhukari, which literally means the profession of the bumblebees. Madhu means the bee. Kari means to go around, I think. So, or Madhu also means honey, right? That one that goes from flower to flower, collecting a little honey. As bumblebees collect honey from many flowers, a little from each. So a sannyasi should beg from door to door, but not accept very much food from any particular house. He should collect a little bit from every house. This is called the Bahudak stage. So he doesn't become attached to anybody giving him, like Raghunath Das Goswami. He was standing outside the Sinhadwar at Jagannath temple and he was thinking, oh, this person is going to give me. Last time he gave me, yesterday he gave me, or some days back, this person is going to give me again. So then he thought, what is this? I'm depending on such and such person to give me food. I should not stand here. Then he would sit with the beggars and they would give some prasad like that with the beggars. So, and then he gave that up also. Then he was eating what even the cows would not eat. Some Jagannath prasad like that. He would wash some rice and then So like that. Of course, this is we cannot imitate. This is very renounced. When a sannyasi is still more experienced, he travels all over the world to preach the glories of Lord Vasudeva. He is then known as Parivrajacharya. The sannyasi reaches the Paramahamsa stage when he finishes preaching work and sits down in one place strictly for the sake of advancing in spiritual life. Then he just sits down and he does Nirjan Bhajan maybe. An actual Paramahamsa is one who is completely controls his senses and engages in the unalloyed service of the Lord. Therefore, all the three sons of Priyavrata, namely Kavi, Mahavir, and Savana, were situated in the Paramahamsa stage from the very beginning. So they were just doing their bhajan. Their senses could not disturb them, for their senses were completely engaged in serving the Lord. Therefore, the three brothers are described in this verse as Upashama Shilaha. Upashama means completely subdued. Because they completely subdued their senses, they are understood to have been great sages and saints. And they subdued their senses because their senses were locked with Krishna's service. So their senses could not victimize. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. After subduing their senses, the three brothers concentrated their minds upon the lotus feet of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna. So we may say whether we have to subdue our senses first and then think of Krishna, or just think of Krishna and the senses automatically get subdued. So either way, the goal is to focus on Krishna. The goal of subduing the senses is to focus on Krishna, and by focusing on Krishna, the senses become subdued. It is easier to focus on Krishna and subdue the senses than to subdue the senses first and then focus on Krishna. So like that, we say in bhakti, there is engagement in Krishna's service, so then automatically the senses are engaged. So instead of saying you come from negative to zero and then you focus on Krishna, you directly take the positive. And so when the senses are engaged, then there is no other engagement. When the mind is engaged in thinking of Krishna, then there is no other engagement like that. So of course, both should go simultaneously, because while we are doing chanting or devotional service, also there is distractions. Then we have to subdue the mind at that point. As Krishna says, wherever the mind wanders, bring it back. Yato yato nishchalim, yato yato
निश्चलति फलस्थिरं ततस्ततो निमित्तात् आत्मनेव वशं नयेत्.
What does that mean? From wherever.
From wherever the mind wanders, bring it back under the control of the self.
So we should not be discouraged that my mind is wandering. It will go, but then bring it back. So that's why if you are conscious, now my mind is going, okay, bring it back. So like that, if we are conscious all the time when we are chanting, then we are, we are aware of whether we are hearing or not hearing. Like that, they say, we have to chant and we have to ask the question, did I hear the Mahamantra? Was I focused on Krishna's holy name when I chanted this mantra? After every mantra, if the answer is no, then don't move ahead on the beat. Repeat that Mahamantra again. It's like that. You can punish yourself, because the mind doesn't like to chant. The mind just wants to finish the chanting somehow or other. So we say, no, it's not just about finishing. We have to do it nicely. So if you don't chant nicely, then you have to do it again. Like if you don't do your homework again, then you have to repeat. Right? So in the same way, we tell the mind, no, if you don't chant, then you have to chant more. So again, you have to chant the mantra. In this way, the mind can be subdued. So after every mantra, we should ask the question, did I chant nicely? We don't have to stop, but we can never mind. Then if we said no, then okay, then let me chant again nicely. So we may say, well, it will take me 3 hours, 4 hours to complete the round. It'll take me double the time. But that's good because now I'm chanting more and I'm also chanting attentively. So, of course, yeah. So, if you do that, then after some time, then the mind will say, yeah, better let me pay attention, like that. So, after subduing their senses, the three brothers concentrated their minds upon the lotus feet of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. The lotus feet of Vasudeva are everything. Lord Vasudeva is the reservoir of all living entities. When this cosmic manifestation is dissolved, all the living entities enter the supreme body of the Lord, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who merges within the body of Mahavishnu. So, Garbhodakshai Vishnu also goes away and merges in the body of Mahavishnu. From Mahavishnu, only Garbhodakshai Vishnu comes, and then Garbhodakshai Vishnu goes back in the body of Mahavishnu. Both these Vishnu Tattvas are Vasudev Tattvas. And therefore, the great sages, Kavi, Mahavir, and Savana, concentrated always upon the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva Krishna. In this way, they could understand that the super soul within the heart is the supreme personality of Godhead, and they could recognize their identity with Him. The complete description, so they were always thinking of Krishna in their heart. The complete description of this realization is that simply by discharging the unalloyed form of devotional service, one can realize his self completely. So, by rendering devotional service, then there are two side effects. We become free from all designations and our senses become purified. That verse is there. What verse is there? By rendering devotional service, two effects are achieved. How does it start? Sarva upadi, sarva upadi
मुक्तं
muktam tatparatvena
तत्परत्वेन निर्मलं ऋषिकेन ऋषिकेश सेवनं भक्तरुच्यते.
and Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asuveda. One requires detachment also. The Parama Bhakti Yoga mentioned in this verse means that a living entity, by dint of unalloyed devotional service, has no other interest than the service of the Lord. So at some point, he becomes so attracted to the service of the Lord that he says, I don't have anything else to do but only the service of the Lord. Anya Bilashita Shunyam comes to that point. No other interest, as described in Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, and he surrenders. By Parama Bhakti Yoga, by elevating oneself to the highest platform of loving service, one can automatically be relieved from the bodily concept of life and see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. An advanced devotee who is known as Sat or saint or can always see within his heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Krishna Shyam Sundar expands himself by his plenary portion and thus a devotee can always see him within his heart. Okay, any comments anybody has? Okay, so the three children of Priyavrata Maharaj became completely absorbed in the Supreme Lord and they realized the Supreme Lord. Okay, so the next verse we'll read. In his other wife, Maharaj Priyavrata begot three sons named Uttama, Tamasa, and Revat. All of them later took charge of Manvantar millenniums. So he had 10 plus 1, 11, 10 sons and one daughter, and then three sons through his other wife. In every day of Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras. The duration of one Manvantara, the lifespan of one Manu, is 71 yugas, and each yuga is 4,320,000 years. So we have discussed this before. There are 14 manvantars, and each manvantar is 71 yuga cycles. There are 1,000 divya yugas in one, like that. Almost all the manus selected to rule the manvantars came from the family of Maharaj Priyavrata. So the, his sons Uttama, Tamas, and Revat, they were all manus. Three of them are particularly mentioned here, namely Uttama, Tamasa, and Revat. We can't even comprehend all these things. How three of his sons were manus and they lived for 71 yuga cycles. So, how long they were living. And not only there were different manvantars, there are different manus. So, these are the different manus Uttama, Tamasa, Revat. Like we have Vaivashvata Manu now. So, okay. After Kavi, Mahavir, and Savana were completely trained in the Paramhamsa stage of life, Maharaj Priyavrata ruled the universe for 11 arbudas of years. I don't know what that we say Arab, right? Crore and arbudas. That this arbudas come in this Karnar Budhebhyas Friyam. Karnar Budhebhyas Friyam. What is that verse? Tunde Tandavani Ratim Vitanute Tundavali Labdaye Karna Krodha Kadamini.
घटयते कर्णाम्बुधे
Karnar Budhebhyas Friyam. So, arbudas means millions of years, or how much it is more. One arbuda equals 100 million. Whenever he was determined to fix his arrow upon his bowstring with his two powerful arms, so Priyavrata Maharaj would fix his arrow upon his bowstring with his two powerful arms. All opponents of the regulative principles of religious life would flee from his presence in fear of. So he was so powerful. As soon as he would put his arrow on the bow, everybody would tremble. All those who were not against God, all the atheists would flee from his presence in fear of the unparalleled prowess he displayed in ruling the universe. He greatly loved his wife Barismati, and with the increase of days, their exchange of nuptial love also increased. By her feminine behavior, as she dressed herself, walked, got up, smiled, laughed, and glanced about, Queen Barismati increased his energy. So he was married to Barismati and he loved his wife, it is mentioned here. Thus, although he was a great soul, he appeared lost in feminine conduct of his wife. So he became like too much attracted to his wife. He behaved with her just like an ordinary man, but actually he was a great soul. Difficult to understand how it is. Both are going on simultaneously. Let's see what Prabhupada says. In this verse, the word dharma pratipakshaha, opponents of religious principles, refers not to a particular faith but to varnashram dharma. The divisions of society, socially and spiritually, into four varnas and four ashramas. To maintain proper social order and help the citizens gradually progress towards the goal of life, namely spiritual understanding, the principles of varnashram dharma must be accepted. From this verse, Maharaj Priyavrata appears to have been so strict in maintaining this institution of varnashram dharma that anyone neglecting it would immediately flee from his presence as soon as the king warned him by fighting or administering light punishment. Indeed, Maharaj Priyavrata would not have to fight, for simply because of his strong determination, they dared not to disobey the rules and regulations of varnashram dharma. So just by saying, he did not even have to, people would stop misbehaving. It is said that unless human society is regulated by varnashram dharma, the rules and regulations of regulated by varnashram, it is no better than a bestial society of cats and dogs. Maharaj Priyavrata therefore strictly maintained varnashram dharma by his extraordinary, unparalleled prowess. To maintain such a strict life of vigilance, one needs encouragement from his wife. In the Varnashram Dharma system, certain classes such as the Brahmanas and Sannyasis do not need encouragement from the opposite sex. So, Kshatriyas and Grihasthas, however, actually need the encouragement of their wives in order to execute their duties. Indeed, a Grihastha or Kshatriya cannot properly execute his responsibilities without the association of his wife. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally admitted that the Grihastha must live with a wife. Kshatriyas were even allowed to have many wives to encourage them in discharging the duties of the government. The association of good wife is necessary in a life of karma and political affairs to execute his duties properly. So in the material world, he has to execute all these duties. So he needed the assistance of a wife. To execute his duties properly, therefore Maharaj Priyavrata took advantage of his good wife Barismati, who was always very expert in pleasing her great husband by properly dressing herself, smiling and exhibiting her feminine bodily features. Queen Barismati always kept Maharaj Priyavrata very encouraged, and thus he executed his governmental duty very properly. In this verse, Eva has twice been used to indicate that Maharaj Priyavrata acted exactly like a henpecked husband, and thereby seemed to have lost his sense of human responsibility. Actually, however, he was fully conscious of his position as spirit soul, although he seemingly behaved like an acquiescent karmi husband. So it is said that he was in kingdom and family life, but he knew and he was behaving like a spirit soul. Maharaj Priyavrata thus ruled the universe for 11 arbudas of years. One arbuda consists of 100 million years, and Maharaj Priyavrata ruled the universe for 11 such arbudas. Can't figure this. Okay, so this verse is saying that Maharaj Priyavrata, although it seemed like Prabhupada says that he was carried away by, sense gratification, but actually he was not. Okay. While so excellently ruling the universe, King Priyavrata once became dissatisfied with the circumambulation of the most powerful sun god. So Priyavrata Maharaj became upset with sun god who was moving, encircling Sumeru hill on his chariot. So the sun goes around the Sumeru hill. Sun god illuminates all the surrounding planetary systems. However, when the sun is on the northern side of the hill, the south receives less light, and when the sun is in the south, the north receives less. King Priyavrata disliked this situation and therefore decided to make daylight in part of the universe where there was night. So Priyavrata Maharaj thought, why should there be darkness here? So when the sun is on the north side, the south is in dark, like that, and vice versa. He followed the orbit of the sun god on a brilliant chariot and thus fulfilled his desire. He could perform such wonderful activities because of the power he had achieved by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is beyond our comprehension, how Priyavrata Maharaj lighted up that part of universe where there was night. Because he had the power by worshipping the Supreme Lord. So let's see. There is a Bengali saying, so all the Bengalis can tell what actually. There is a Bengali saying which describes that someone is powerful, so powerful that he can make the night day and the day night. That saying is current because of the prowess of Priyavrata. His activities demonstrated how powerful he became by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna is known as Yogeshwar, the master of all mystic powers. So he was empowered by Krishna. Krishna can do that. So those who are empowered can also do that. In Bhagavad Gita 1878, it is said, wherever there is master of all mystic powers, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, victory, fortune, and all other opulences are present. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna.
यत्र पार्थ धनुर्धर तत्र श्री विजयभूति ध्रुवानी धर्मधर्मम.
Devotional service is so powerful. When a devotee achieves what he wants to accomplish it, it is not by his own mystic power, but by the grace of the master of mystic power, Lord Krishna. By his grace, a devotee can accomplish wonderful things unimaginable, even to the most powerful scientist. So those who are empowered by Krishna, they can do amazing things. They can, because Krishna's power is flowing through them. They are, from the description in this universe, it appears that the sun moves. So we say that Earth is moving and the sun is stationary. In the heliocentric model, sun is stationary and all the planets are moving. But Prabhupada is saying in this verse, it appears sun is moving. And Priyavrata became dissatisfied with the sun's movement. According to modern astronomers, the sun is fixed in one place, surrounded by a solar system. But here we find that the sun is not stationary; it is rotating in a prescribed orbit. This fact is corroborated by Brahma Samhita. Yasyagnaya Brahmati Samvrita Kala Chakra. Yasya means by whose order Brahmati, the sun is moving. That is Yachakshuresha Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rashesha Teja. Yasyagnaya Agya means by order. Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Chakshu is the, here it is described. The sun is the eye of all the planets because it is like the king, Raja, and that power, the sun is moving because of the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yat Chakshur Esha Savita Sakala Grahanam. Sakala means all, and Graha means the planets. Raja Samasta. So Samasta means the totality of all the. So the king of all the demigods. What says the sun, who is the king of all the planets, full of infinite effulgence. Ashesha Teja, is the image of the good soul, is Samasta Suramurtir, is as the eye of this world, Chakshu. It's one of the witnesses, sun. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. So we say, by the fear of the Supreme Lord, the sun is rising, the wind is blowing, all these things. So Krishna's order is there, that's why the sun is moving. Everybody is afraid. The sun is rotating in its fixed orbit in accordance with the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Jyotir Veda, the science of astronomy in the Vedic literature, the sun moves for 6 months on the northern side of the Sumeru hill and for 6 months on the southern side. We have practical experience on this planet. When there is summer in the north, there is winter in the south. Like in Australia and America, it's always different. When it's winter here, it's summer there. When there is summer in the north, there is winter in the south, and vice versa. Modern materialistic scientists sometimes present themselves as knowing all the ingredients of the sun, yet they are unable to offer a second sun, like Maharaj Priyavrata. So Maharaj Priyavrata was like a second sun, which illuminated the dark side. Although Maharaj Priyavrata devised a very powerful chariot as brilliant as the sun, he had no desire to compete with the sun god. For a Vaishnava never wants to supersede another Vaishnava. So Surya Narayan is also Vaishnava, and Priyavrata Maharaj is also Vaishnava. So he had no desire to compete. His purpose was to give abundant benefits in material existence. He wanted to give that benefit to those in the dark side by giving them light. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that in the months of April and May, the rays of Maharaj Priyavrata's brilliant sun were as pleasing as the rays of the moon. And in October and November, both morning and evening, that sun provided more warmth than the sunshine. In short, Maharaj Priyavrata was extremely powerful, and his actions extended his power in all directions. So in summer, May time, the Maharaj Priyavrata's rays were like the moon's rays, pleasing, cooling. And in October and November, They provided warmth. This is winter time. Okay, so like that. Priyavrata Maharaj is moving in the chariot. So now we come into all this description of all the planetary systems and the seven oceans. And okay, when Priyavrata drove his chariot behind the sun, so when the sun was on north, he was on this side. The rims of his chariot wheels created impressions that later became seven oceans. So the wheels of his chariot were going and they were creating trenches and like islands, dividing the planetary system known as Bhumandal into seven islands. So this is Bhagavad cosmology, which I am not very conversant with, but the Bhumandal, it is saying dividing the planetary known as Bhumandal, which is our Bhumi, into seven islands. Sometimes the planets in outer spaces are called islands. We have experience of various types of islands in the ocean, and similarly, the various planets divided into 14 lokas are islands in the ocean of space. So, island means a land that is surrounded by water on four sides. Right? That's how we. So, we have many islands in the ocean. On the four sides, there is water and there is some land. And similarly, the various planets divided into 14 lokas are islands in the ocean of space. They are surrounded by space on all the sides. As Priyavrata drove his chariot behind the sun, he created seven different types of ocean and planetary systems, which altogether are known as Bhumandal or Bhulok. In the Gayatri mantra, we chant Om Bhur Bhuvasva Tat Savitu Varenyam Tat Savitur Varenyam. Above the Bhulok planetary system is Bhuvarlok. Above that is Svarlok, the heavenly planetary system. Bhur, Bhuva, and Swa. All these planetary systems are controlled by Savita, the sun god. By chanting the Gayatri mantra just after rising early in the morning, one worships the sun god. So the Gayatri mantras, they say, I worship this sun god. So the translation is like this. Om Bhur Bhuvasva Tat Savitu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Let us meditate on that worshipable effulgence of the divine sun. May he enthuse our meditation. So this is meditation on the sun, who is also one of the eyes of the Supreme Lord. So like that, there is this Gayatri mantra. So we are meditating on the sun or meditating on Krishna who lights up this whole universe through the sun. So many people worship sun, right? With the water like that, they pour water and they worship the sun. So so that Surya Narayan is also Vivashwan is also a devotee. Imam Vivashvate Yogan Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivashwan Manave Praha Manurikshvakave Pravit. So Krishna says, I first instructed this science to sun god Vivashwan, who is also a devotee. That we also read that Priyavrata Maharaj was also a devotee and sun god is also a devotee. He didn't want to compete with sun god because he's also Vaishnava. So okay, so then the names of the islands are Jambu. So the chariot that was moving, Priyavrata, that created seven islands and seven oceans. So let's see. The names of the islands are Jambu, Jambu Dweep, we say, Plaksha, Salmali, Kusha, Kroncha, Shaka, and Pushkar. Each island is as twice large as the one preceding it, and each is surrounded by liquid substance, beyond which is the next island. The ocean in each planetary system is a different type of liquid. How they are situated is explained in the next verse. Okay, so that's the where we come to the seven oceans. The seven oceans respectively contain salt water, which is here, sugarcane juice, liquor, clarified butter, milk, emulsified yogurt, and sweet drinking water. So we have salty water, but there are other oceans which have sugarcane juice, liquor, clarified butter, milk, emulsified yogurt, and sweet drinking water. All the islands are completely surrounded by these oceans, and each ocean is equal in breadth to the island it surrounds. So, island is surrounded by this ocean. Maharaj Priyavrata, the husband of Queen Barismati, gave sovereignty over these islands to his respective sons. So, seven sons. The other three became celibate brahmacharis. The other seven were given charge of all the seven islands. Agnidra, Idmavija, Yagnabahu. Okay. Thus they all became kings by the order of their father. It is to be understood that all the dvipas or islands are surrounded by different types of oceans, and it is said herein that the breadth of each ocean is the same as that of the island it surrounds. So, whatever is the length and breadth of the land, the same is the length and breadth of the ocean. The length of the oceans, however, cannot equal the length of the islands. According to Viragaraghava Acharya, the breadth of the first island is 100,000 yojanas. One yojana equals 8 miles. Therefore, the breadth of the first island is equal to 800,000 miles. The water surrounding it must have the same breadth, but its length must be different. Okay, so we'll stop here. So we can hear some lectures on Bhagavad cosmology and then see. Okay, so we'll continue with our lecture on Damodar Leela.